Hey guys, I'm really sorry about the crappy sound in this video. I've got a wireless mic on the way so I can make my sound a lot better. A couple of you have commented that the sound is really kind of weak in my vids, and I agree. So I'm trying to fix it. I'm just waiting for Amazon to get their crap together and get my microphone to me. I ordered it several days ago. So it's on the way, and better quality is on the way too. But for now, let's install this in the cabinet. Alright, so I have mounted the speaker. On this speaker there are 6 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they're just ordinary wood screws. And I just left the speaker on the speaker board and went ahead and mounted the speaker board back up. So let me go about putting the chassis in now. Chassis is a real simple affair. Except you can't leave the knob on it. Okay, now it's ready to slide in. All right. So the trick is, you've got these chassis washers, and you want to get the chassis situated such that it's on the chassis washers, but it hasn't moved the chassis washers. And on these Zeniths, you can sometimes sort of pack the chassis washer up in the chassis. These remind me of the ones that were supposed to have springs in them, but there were no springs, and this one had chassis washers, so I'm going to stick with what it had. So you pack them up in there, like so, and they'll usually stay. The trick is getting the other ones in, so they'll stay, while these stay. So you kind of have to slide it a little bit, and that means you lift it up a little bit too while you're sliding it. They're a bugger. But they're important. So you get all of them in the little squares. You'll know when one comes out because it'll sit at an angle. And then you just gently slide it. It will initially sit a little bit high because you've got to screw these things down in order for the chassis washers to compress a little bit. Don't break your heart about it. It'll be okay. You just slide it home, and the knob shaft will sit a little high up front. Whatever you do, do not slide the cabinet off of that cart. Okay, once you have it in position, well, then you take your screws and start to screw them in. Of course, this chassis came to me with one screw. They're always missing screws, drives me insane. And I have to always find some kind of a screw that will fit, or a bolt. I usually find a bolt. Here is what the original looked like. You go ahead and stick a screwdriver up through the opening, and then you find the hole in the chassis, and that's how you get it set up. Real easy on Zenith. Some radios are a lot harder. There. So that should do it. And on the Zenith here, you can kind of look through and see the screwdriver poking up. Okay, so let me go ahead and find the right bolts for this, and we'll be good to go. Okay, I found some long nuts and bolts. There's some long bolts. And they don't match because that's all I have. I need to get a stash of these. So what these are large pan head bolts, and they'll work just fine. They stick out a little farther than I like, so I'm using some thick spacer washers. These are actually cylinder head washers for 36 horse Volkswagens. They work great for spacers. These washers are from about 1955. Installing in the cabinet is probably my least favorite part about radio work. Principally because there are so many things that can go wrong. So what you do is you tighten these bolts down until you compress those washers enough, those rubber washers, so that the shafts are centered in their holes, the knob shafts. All right, the next thing you want to do is these two little screws that hold the preset tuning in place. There's only two of them, and the preset tuning kind of floats on the chassis because there's no way to be sure that these screws would fit otherwise. So you have to sometimes kind of manipulate it from behind while you're putting the screws in the front. Okay, we're gonna feed this tone control now through the hole, through the opening, and it has to screw into the escutcheon. Okay, this is a real tricky part because this thing is fragile, remember that. Once you have the tone control hooked up, well then you can take this stuff out of the way here and you can drop these cords through here if you like. I like to leave the battery cord kind of coiled up over here because it's a little shorter and it's got those heavy ends on it, so I leave it there. Then you want to take from down below here, you want to take the speaker connector and run it up through that same hole. All right, and then you just bring the speaker connector here and plug her in right there. Nothing to it. Zeniths are really easy this way. Okay, what I've done now is I've gone ahead and installed that little tone control into the escutcheon, and you see how they work. And this one here is the glued one, so I'll be careful with that. Here are the station presets. Okay, I've gone ahead and installed, like I said, the dial on the escutcheon. I've installed the shutter dial lever. So that's on there, and I'm getting ready to put the tuning knob on. You might notice that I put a felt washer behind this band switch, the band selector lever. Try not to drop these knobs, they will break. There we go. Beautiful. That's a beautiful thing, man. All right, time for the volume knob. There's a small flat on the volume control. And you want to get that screw on that flat. Okay, there we go. Okay, all that's left are these little tabs. I bought some new ones. All right, I have installed these things before, and they're really brittle. You have to be very careful with them, and they don't go in easily. And if you push them too hard, once they're in, they'll break. So you want to be super careful with these. But they're nice, and they're not, it's not something that you're going to find at your local Walmart, so I'm thrilled to have them. Ed does a really nice job at Renovated Radios with all this stuff, because without him and his work, we wouldn't have a lot of these parts that we can get so easily now. So if I have to be careful with them, that's fine. I have to be careful with the original ones too. You should always buy these in full sets, and not just because they cost less per piece that way, but it's real hard for him to make them with exactly the color tint from batch to batch. And so you want to get ones that come from the same batch if you can. There. Okay, so that's done. That side's done. Excellent. I made a little map of which ones go where. I looked it up on Radio Museum for the tone controls. It's easy to narrow it down too because of the way they're printed. They're printed top to bottom. So you see the low bass, the top of the word starts at the flat, and the treble, the top of the word starts at the point of the arrow. So you kind of know that they go like this. Treble goes on the right. Here we go. Low bass goes on the right also. These are really a bugger sometimes. Yikes. Sometimes they have flashing on them. You might have to clear that off. The trouble is you don't want to do too much or it'll fit loosely. Almost there, not quite. Sometimes you actually have to file them a little bit. It's not the end of the world. Just touch them, don't do a lot. In my business, we mold plastic bottles, and I know how difficult molding plastic can be. And you're making little parts like this, and your principal concern is to try and make it look right, make it look the right color and that kind of thing. It's real easy to get flashing on it. Yikes. Okay, we'll set that one aside. I'll have to file that one. Bass is in the middle. Alto is on the left, on the bottom. Okay, voice is on the left. Normal is in the middle on the top. All right, well, I've just got one to file. I'll go ahead and do that, and then I'll come back and show you where I'm at. Well, I forgot to turn the camera on, but I got that on there. So These here are probably a little bit dirty. I forgot to clean them, but the truth is, actually I didn't forget to clean them. I just forgot to clean them when I was thinking I was going to clean them. They're so fragile that you don't want to do it when they're out because it's so easy to bend them. When they're in this escutcheon, then they don't go side to side and they're not likely to break. All right, so there you go. Let me get a cord. We'll plug her in and we'll do a final demo. All right, guys, we're about there. Just sit tight. I'll get everything set up and we'll do a final demo in the next video. I'll go ahead and close this video up. I told you that the last two videos would be really short. The final demo video will be really short because I'll just show the radio playing and that's it. I'll demonstrate the controls and so forth and give you a little tour. So for now, this is a Wednesday morning, March the 29th. And from your Western Outpost in Salt Lake City, this is Michael, and that's all for now.